The video you're about to watch is supported by patrons such as Raffi, Alex Sherman, Kinslow TN, and Cashinator. Thank you. If we're going to talk about Mario Party DS, we need to cover everything surrounding its release, and more so, something that contributes to this game's lesser discussed nature. By the time the GameCube dropped, Mario Party had already become a very well-established series. This is a series that has always had its haters, but it's also always had its die-hard fans, such as myself. So given the nature and the popularity of the series, you would think a handheld version would be a no-brainer. I mean, one of the most important aspects of portable gaming specifically is replayability. In Mario Party, simply by design, is infinitely replayable. Porting it over to a handheld seemed like a super obvious move. Well, apparently, Hudson Soft and Nintendo thought otherwise because Nintendo handhelds were starving for some on-the-go Mario Party action until it was already too late. So let's see, we had Mario Party Advance, which for those of you who already saw my review likely know, it was a bit of a stretch to call that game a quote-unquote Mario Party. I mean, a single-player adventure game where you help residents with their everyday issues. The only thing further from the theming of the series would have been if they made it a first-person shooter. But hey, maybe they thought the Game Boy Advance just wasn't up for the task of providing a true Mario Party experience. Luckily, there was another handheld on the market by that point, the Nintendo DS. Now, the DS absolutely was up for the task of a handheld Mario Party, so I patiently waited. And by patiently, I mean holy shit, I was like a goddamn drug addict desperately itching for my Coke fix. I was so desperate for Mario Party on the go, I ended up buying Crash Boom Bang for Nintendo DS. And that game sucked ass. But you know what? It was all we had. And when your series is being beaten to the punch by freaking Crash Bandicoot, that's when you know you need to get your act together. Then finally, after the DS had been on the market for 3 years, gamers finally got their honest-to-God handheld Mario Party. No cars, no fetch quest. Mario Party DS was a traditional styled Mario Party on the go. But by the time we got it, it was already too late. It's not like no one was playing their DS around 2008-ish, but by the time most people were able to get their hands on the game, the handheld was already 4 years old by this point. And the height of the DS's popularity was around the release of Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, which was a year prior. I mean, that was also the year New Super Mario Bros. Came out, which was the DS's best-selling title. But hey, at least we did get it. And all things considered, it did sell really well at over 9 million units worldwide, putting it at the 11th best-selling DS game. But yeah, if you ever wonder why Mario Party DS is rarely discussed, I would wager its time of release plays a big role in its irrelevance. With all of that out of the way, let's talk about what we eventually did get. Well, actually, there's one last thing I should bring up. This right here, this anti-piracy screen supposedly from this game that got super popular, it's not real, okay? Not actually in the game. In fact, this picture is from the story mode for this game, not a unique image. Sorry if I just ruined all the fun, but I knew if I didn't at least mention it, I'd have tons of people telling me I quote-unquote forgot to talk about it. Okay, anyways, let's talk about the story. So Mario is walking around at night when he sees a bunch of shooting stars. Then one falls right next to him and he's like, "Whoa, I'm happy." This was apparently the most important thing going on right now, so he gathers everybody to tell them about the sky crystal he found. What's a sky crystal? I don't know. But the game clearly doesn't care much either because immediately after, Mario and friends get a letter from Bowser himself. He seemingly apologizes for being such a big jerk and that he set up a big ass buffet for everyone. I guess that apology was good enough to make up for years of abuse and tyranny because they all decided it's a good idea to give their buddy old pal Bowser a visit. Also, DK got one too, I don't care. But oh no, it was anti-piracy! I mean, oh no, it was a trap! Look at these reactions. Like, really guys? This turn of events was really that shocking to you? Bowser fooled them so he could get a hold of their sky crystal. So why did Mario bring it with him? It's not like Bowser's letter told him to bring it. Plus, how did Bowser know he had it? And what's a sky crystal? We still don't know. But Bowser wants it, so ooh, it must be evil. Bowser has some magic staff that shrinks all of them down, and then he just throws them out. No consideration that they might come back and try to stop him, and sure enough, that's what they decide to do. Then in classic Mario Party fashion, they all argue about who gets to save the day because I guess it could only be one of them. So basically that's the excuse for playing Mario Party, to decide on a superstar. In story mode, you go through all of the game's 5 boards, which was the smallest number of boards in a Mario Party game until Super Mario Party came out with only 4. I mean, hey, at least the DS one had the excuse of being on an underpowered handheld. Okay, well 4 boards is still unacceptable. During the story mode, Mario and the gang are traveling back to Bowser's lair, all the while helping a familiar cast of Mario characters on their way there. You bump into a familiar face, they tell you they need some help, you play a game of Mario Party to decide who gets to help them, the winner of the board faces off against a boss, and then you move on to the next map. And anytime you help one of these characters, they give you another Sky Crystal. We still don't know what they do, but hey, just roll with it. That's the basic gameplay loop of story mode until the gang finally makes it back to Bowser and he's just like, waiting there. The half-pint heroes have finally arrived in Bowser's lair. Okay, dude, if you still actually wanted the mess of them, why did you throw them out to begin with? So Bowser shoves everyone into a giant pinball machine, which admittedly makes for a really cool board theme. But after you play a round of Mario Party in there, Bowser is like, alright, time to die now. Then Donkey Kong shows up out of nowhere and accidentally breaks Bowser's staff because he was so excited about food, causing everybody to return to normal size. Hey, this party ain't over yet. I've got an even more secret weapon, the Megamorph Belt. What does this elusive belt turn Bowser into? That weird flex, but sure. So you beat him, you get your Sky Crystal back, and all of the Sky Crystals you've collected up to this point form together to unveil the ultimate weapon, a Nintendo DS. It's not even a joke, but the music sure acts like it's a pretty big deal. Seriously, listen to this. It's like you just uncovered the secrets of the universe. Turns out this whole time, Bowser just wanted to play this puzzle game called Triangle Twisters, and apparently 5 magic rocks that fall from the sky is the only way to do it. But since you're all such good pals, you share the game with him, and you all have a jolly old time. All those past kidnappings? Ah, what the hell. Let's play some video games. The end. Yeah, C-. Alright, well now that we got that surprisingly lengthy story out of the way, how about we look at the actual game? Mario Party DS has a lot of content and it's all categorized into several modes. The first is Story Mode. This is your single player adventure where you go through all 5 boards and experience that heart-pounding story we just talked about. Most Mario Parties have a mode like this, but the cool thing about DS is that after you complete a board, you have to go up against a boss, like I mentioned earlier. None of these boss fights are anything to write home about, but it's a nice addition. But as for the gameplay itself, it's your standard Mario Party affair and it's really well done, especially for the hardware. Like I said, there's 5 maps, and Hudson Soft did a good job making every board feel different in both its presentation and gimmicks. Fortunately, there's no cars or any bullcrap like that, because you really don't need that to make things feel thematically or structurally different. These are the 5 maps included. Wiggler's Garden, sort of your basic introduction board with your familiar setup. Stars are 20 coins, and when you buy one, the next star moves to a new space. It's a great looking map though. In fact, yeah, for DS, all of these maps look pretty solid. Then we got Toadette's Music Room, where each star keeps getting more and more expensive until eventually resetting back to 5 coins. DK's stone statue, which, don't let that name mislead you. That statue of DK is actually the real DK who has been turned into stone by Dry Bones. I mean, you save him at the end, but god, what a morbid centerpiece. This also means that this is yet another Mario Party where you cannot play as the Big Ape. Instead, in his place is Toad. DS has 8 characters, so the selection is good overall, but yeah, keep that in mind, because I know a lot of people like playing as DK. This is a linear map with a single stationary star at the top of the map. Once you get there, you can buy as many stars as you like, given you have the money for it. Chemic's Library, which is probably my least favorite board. The theming is cool, but the music kinda sucks, and it's one of those Mario Party boards that is split into sectors. Nearly every Mario Party has a board like this where you're stuck on that current portion of the map until you land on a space or use an item to get out. Wario's Battle Canyon, Mystery Land, Creepy Cavern, Goomba's Greedy Gala, Mario Party 5 has fucking 2 of them. You get the idea though. There's a lot of boards throughout the series that recycle this idea, but Chemic's Library is likely my least favorite variation of this. Props to DS though, this is the only map I don't like, so not much of a loss. Finally, there's Bowser's Pinball Machine. Bowser maps tend to be some of the more interesting maps in the series, and this board is no exception. Standard rules where you got a 20 coin star that moves, but there are tons of outlandish mystery spaces that all do a variety of terrible things. This is probably the only board I think felt a little too small. I mean, it's such a cool idea, I just wish there was more of it. Overall, it's a decent selection of maps. Mario Party DS likely has, in general, the smallest boards in the series. But honestly, I kinda like that because some of the console Mario Party boards just take way too long to traverse. Like Mario Party 2, I love ya, but dude, fuck that Western map. It blows my mind how many people regard that as the best board. If you don't have a skeleton key, the minimum number of spaces it takes to circle the map, if you're taking all the shortest paths, is 56. Traditionally, a Mario Party die is 1 through 10, 10, making the mean 5.5? That being the case, do you know how long it takes on average to get around to that first junction in Western Land? 10 full turns! I have literally played 20-turn games of Western Land where I was only able to circle the map once before the game ended. You're not always able to take the train, there are no item shops on the perimeter of the board and no way to get back to the center, and all of the junctions on the outer routes actually make it take longer to get back to start. Sorry for the tangent, but the bottom line is none of the boards in DS have that issue, and it's much better off for it. If you've played Mario Party before, then you likely know the drill. Explore the board, collect coins, trade those coins for stars. Player of the most stars by the end of the game is the winner. For the sake of everyone's time, I'm just going to assume you know how Mario Party works and talk about the key differences in DS. Firstly, there's a brand new space in DS, the friend space, because this game is actually all about friendship. Well, until the last 5 turns when all those friend spaces turn into dual spaces. Because if Mario Party has taught me anything, friendships are meant to be broken. The friend space is really odd. Basically, you land on it and you get 5 coins, but then you have to select another player to also receive 5 coins. In most circumstances, this basically means this is a space that gives you and the player in last place 5 coins when landed on. Then the dual spaces activate a duel game. Duels aren't exactly a concept that is new to Mario Party. However, this is the first entry to allocate a space to them in the main party mode. I am not a fan of how the wagers are set, however. In previous Mario Parties, the player who initiated the duel got to set what was at stake. Mario Parties 5 and 6 handling this the best in my opinion, since you could wager 40 coins if you didn't have a star. Nonetheless, on DS, every duel starts with a roulette determining what each player will have to give up to enter the duel. The problem is that if you have a star but the other player doesn't, the roulette can still land on you fighting for stars, which in turn means the other player wagers nothing while you are essentially just fighting to keep your star with nothing more to gain if you win. Then of course this was made even worse in Mario Party 7, with there being a roulette after the duel and having one of the options on the roulette being nothing, completely wasting everyone's time. So yeah, the duel wagers are bad in DS, but not Mario Party 7 bad. Another difference in DS is how the item shop is handled. In previous entries, when you passed the item shop, you were offered a list of options to choose from, and you could walk out with one item, with the exception of the item bag in Mario Party 3 and 4, which gives you 3 random items when you buy it. But in DS, not only can you buy more than 1 item at a time, but they even let you buy more items than you can carry. Seriously, you would think that once you reach your limit of 3 items, the game would just be like, okay, bye-bye now. But no, if you buy a 4th item, it just asks you to remove something you already have, meaning you could intentionally rid of every last coin to your name, even if you enter the store with a full set of items. Not to mention, the item prices are really cheap in DS. I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing. I mean, more items means more strategy, but it's really strange playing something like Mario Party 2 where a warp block is 15 coins, then coming to this where it's only 2. Hell, there's an item in this game that's only a single coin. A lot of the meta in Mario Party has always been centered around the items, so again, I don't think this is a bad change. Just a weird one. On the subject of items, there are also hexes, which if you played Mario Parties 5, 6, or 7, they're similar to capsules. You pass a hex area, you are given a random hex, and to use these, you have to throw them onto a space, making them your own. There's a number of different effects. Some steal coins, some steal stars, and you steal stuff from whoever lands on the hexes that you've placed. Landing on your own hex will simply give you some coins. The last notable change for veteran Mario Party fans is that unlike Mario Parties 2, 3, or 4, battle minigames are random and will take place of a 4-player minigame. I personally always prefer the battles to be allocated to a space, but what are you gonna do? More minor changes would be that during the last 5 turns, blue and red spaces do not double their worth to 6 coins as you would usually expect from other entries. However, friend spaces become dual spaces like mentioned earlier, and the weirdest part is that for the last 5 turns, Bowser will give the losing player coins or sometimes even a star. Seems a little out of character for Bowser, don't you think? Especially in the context of the story mode. Isn't the whole plot you trying to get to him? What, is he just hanging around watching the gang mess in all these locations? Helping you even, no less? Story mode games consist of 10 turns, and at the end, if you lost, you have to redo the board, but if you won, you get to take on the boss. Beat the boss and you progress to the next board. Standard stuff, but it works, and the story is enjoyable for how nonsensical it all is. Next, there's party mode, which as you may expect is all the board game stuff without the story and the predetermined settings. settings. As for the settings, you can turn bonus stars on or off. You can set the minigame selection so it only picks the easy games or it never picks games that utilize a built-in DS microphone, which thank God for the latter, because as we'll get into shortly, all of the mic minigames suck. Handicaps, comm difficulty, you know, all the expected settings. All that aside, I believe this is the first Mario Party where you cannot play 50 turns. I have had some legendary 50-turn Mario Party sessions in the past, but given this is on a handheld, their restriction of 30 does make sense, I guess. Finally, on party mode opposed to story, you can decide to play on teams. Yeah, that's right, it's the green machines versus the Black Peaches? Yeah, I don't know about that one. I feel like you probably could have thought of a better name than that. On teams, you share coins, stars, and items. And it will never choose 1v3 games since, well, yeah, that wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. Oddly enough, you're still limited to 3 items on team play. If this were any other Mario Party, that limitation would suck, but as I said previously, items are stupid cheap in this one, and you can buy more than 1 at a time, so it's all good. But what good is a Mario Party without friends, right? Well, fortunately, Mario Party DS does have wireless play for all the boards and minigames. And the coolest part? Only one person needs a copy. How sweet is that, right? It's not even one of those games that locks certain content unless everybody has a copy. Literally, you got one copy, you can experience everything with friends. I really miss stuff like this. You know, the era of Nintendo where only one person needed a copy of a game, and you could just like transfer the data to anyone else who didn't have the game. So cool. Especially for Mario Party, since you were transferring like, what? An entire 1-hour gaming session to a friend? Unfortunately, there wasn't any Wi-Fi functionality, which was a bit of a bummer. Not that it'd matter nowadays, since it'd all be shut down anyway, but this could have been the first Mario Party of online play. Not to mention, it would have actually been good too. Next up is the minigame mode, which means it's time to talk about the meat of Mario Party DS itself, the minigames. Minigame mode has several different modes you can experience, but let's talk about the standalone games themselves first. Mario Party DS has 73 minigames, which is a higher total than many of the previous entries, and certainly a lot for a handheld. Not to mention, this is a solid selection of games. Some of my absolute favorites are Camera Shy, a literal first-person shooter, where you try to shoot pictures of your opponents before they can shoot one of you, Twist and Route, which makes great use of the hardware by having you twist up a wind-up car with the touchscreen, and then switching back to the D-pad to steer, Dust Buddies, where you outrun a vacuum, Soap Surfers, which is like a version of Mario Party 1 and 2's bumper balls that doesn't always end in a draw. Plush Crush is a 1v3 game where the 3 players have to pick up and drop plush toys to crush the 1 player, Hanger Management, where you and your partner have to maneuver a coat hanger past obstacles to get to your goal, and Mole Thrill, where you and a teammate try to outdig a giant mole. Those are just the ones that stand out in my mind, but to be honest, most of the games here are a lot of fun. And props to the devs for all the games that use the stylus. They did a great job making use of the hardware without any of the games feeling gimmicky. With one exception. The microphone games really blow. And I'm not just talking about the amount of air you'll be blowing into your microphone to win these things. I mean really, let's take a look at the mic games. So you have Big Blowout, where you just blow air into your mic the whole time, Gusty Blizzard, where you just blow air into your mic the whole time, Toppling Tear, where you just blow air into your mic the whole time, and the only okay game that uses the mic is Short Fuse, since the strategy for that one isn't to just blow air as hard as you can the whole time. You want to feel extremely lightheaded while playing a DS? Maybe even possibly faint? Then you're an absolute lunatic, but luckily there's even games for lunatics like you. I mean, it's not like the DS microphone can only detect how loud of an input it's receiving. I know for a fact it can be used to record voice. It would have been cool to see some games that utilize the microphone in that way. Although, if you turn the microphone minigames off, you're only cutting off 4 games total. And there's more than enough variety elsewhere to make up for those. So the minigames are good, but how about the extra minigame modes? Well, voice in my head that specifically asks questions about Mario Party DS. Beyond free play, there are 5 extra minigame modes that are mostly your standard affairs with one exception. The first minigame mode is Step It Up, which will randomly shuffle minigames until somebody has won a set amount of them. Battle Cup is basically Step It Up except you choose the games. Score Shuffle sees you playing 10 minigames that keep track of your in-game score opposed to who flat out wins. Boss Bash is a boss rush. And lastly, the standout inclusion, Rocket Rascals. This is such a creative idea for a minigame mode. So every player is on a corner of the board, and the goal is to get to the center tile so you can win the game. How do you get to the center? Well, by placing pathways. There's intersections, straights, corners, T-pieces, and to get the path tile currently on display, you have to win a minigame. The cool thing about this mode is that it's basically a minigame within a minigame mode. Simple enough to complement the minigames themselves, which should be the focus, but in-depth enough to involve some strategy. In a perfect game, you could win in just 3 pieces, but the piece that is up for grabs won't always be of use to you depending on what corner you start in. So if you win a minigame for a piece you don't need, you can always use it to mess up the pathing of another player. there. To mix things up, Bowser Jr. will pop up every now and then to do a random event decided on by a roulette. And this is where my only critique for this mode comes in. Because I guess as a sick joke from the devs or something, there is an event on there that erases all of the pieces. I had a game where Bowser Jr. literally just reset the board when I was one piece away. Why is this even a thing that can happen? That's like if you landed on a Bowser space and Bowser was just like, and for my next trick, I'm sending you all back to the title screen. Yeah, more like Mario Party BS. Got him! Finally, we have the puzzle mode, which Mario Party DS has a really strange emphasis on for some reason. Yeah, remember that whole story mode stuff with the DS created out of crystals and the made-up game on there, Triangle Twisters? Well, once you beat the story mode, Triangle Twisters is a puzzle game you can actually play, alongside the other Tetris-like games from all the previous mainline Mario Parties. It wasn't until Mario Party DS I realized how many of these damn Tetris games the series had. I mean, they literally had one in every single Mario Party starting of 3. Even Mario Party Advance had a Tetris game. Regardless, they're all represented pretty faithfully here. For whatever reason, Triangle Twisters is separated into its own category as if it's a league above the rest, but really, it's no more complicated than the previous puzzle games we've seen in the series. In fact, Triangle Twisters is likely my least favorite of the 6 games presented here because of how unwieldy the implementation of the triangle cursor is. You got a highlight that encompasses 4 triangles, and by pressing the A button, you'll rotate the selected pieces. And the idea is that you're trying to match 4 of the same color to rack up some points. That's all well and good, but as you can see from the footage, trying to navigate the damn cursor is an absolute nightmare. It's constantly weaving all across the board, and pressing up or down will completely flip your cursor onto the next congruent row above or below. It's hard to explain, but again, just watching the footage, I think you could get what I mean. But hey, we still have all the other puzzle games. My favorite has always been the one from Mario Party 3. It's super straightforward, just match 2 of a kind, although it's super fast-paced, and the addition of the thwomp being able to smash the blocks into half their original size is a really cool feature, and can lead to some high-scoring chains. That concludes all the playable modes in DS, although that is far from all the content. Anytime you play the story, or play a board, or some mini-games, basically anytime you play this game, you're rewarded with what the game calls MP points. The more MP points you earn, the more unlockables you'll collect in the gallery. You can look at the character figures, assets used on the boards or the bosses. You can even unlock and change your emblem used for your profile. Mine's a Goomba. All the stuff in the gallery has its own little description and everything. It's a lot of fun to scroll through and really adds a lot of replay value to the game. I mean, collecting everything this game has to offer would take a good week or so. If we're talking if you were playing this game like non-stop. Out of curiosity, I checked my file I had when I was younger, and I was only halfway to collecting the last badge in the game. As you could probably assume, I played this game constantly as a kid, and I only have 27,000 points out of the required 50,000 to get everything. I mean, even in the file I made for this review, after playing 8 full boards, finishing story mode, playing all the minigame modes, and every puzzle mode at least once, I only have 3,400 points. So yeah, when I said there's a lot of replayability, I meant it. Also, looking at my old save, apparently if you beat a boss enough times, you unlock a model of them laying on the ground dead. What? Mario Party DS is great. There's a lot of weird nitpicky stuff I have for this game for sure, but the reason this game still remains as one of the best entries in the series is because it gets all the fundamentals right. The minigames? Some of the best. The boards? Maybe a little too small, but they complement the portability, and there's no downright awful ones. And the pacing, which is one of the absolute most important things in any party game, let alone Mario Party, is swift and to the point. A 20-turn game is finished in under an hour, which is something you cannot say about many of the other entries. Not to mention, Mario Party DS utilizes its theme of all the players being shrunk down very well. Most all of the minigames use the idea of being small as a focal point, leading to some really creative premises that only make sense in the context of this entry. Outrunning a vacuum, avoiding giant and literal fast food, scaling out of a golf hole, balancing on a giant rotisserie steak. If I had to critique anything, and I mean like a genuine critique, not just a little nitpick, I'd say the music could have been a lot better. Honestly, this might be the most forgettable soundtrack to a Mario Party game. In fact, I'd argue Mario Party Advance had better music. I mean, you really wouldn't think it, but the Mario Party series has always had some really catchy tracks. I mean, Mario Party 3 is all like... Then the casino map in 4 is all... Hell, even Mario Party 5 is like... But the board music in DS is stuff like this. Or... not terrible music or anything, but it's not exactly music that gets you into the party mood. The composer who worked on DS was also the same guy who worked on the soundtracks to 6 and 7, and that sounds about right, given those games had fairly forgettable soundtracks too. Oh yeah, what? What are you gonna do about it? That being said, even those games had better music than this one though. Honestly though, who cares? If the Mario Party games on 3DS are proof of anything, then a forgettable soundtrack is small beans compared to all the stuff that could have gone wrong. And to Mario Party DS's credit, they didn't. Fun, fast, and competent. Mario Party DS isn't just the best handheld Mario Party, but at the time of this video, is arguably the only traditional Mario Party experience that you can play on the go. A dice block that only goes to 6? That's not Mario Party! This was the very last Mario Party to be developed by Hudson Soft until Nintendo took over and started to do, you know, that. It was a valiant last effort, and one that won't be forgotten anytime soon. At least not by me. Rest in peace, Hudson Soft. You might be no longer, but your games will always live on in the hearts of many. And Mario Party DS is one of your best. Thanks so much for watching. I'd like to give a shout out to some of my patrons, such as Kinslow Tien, Drew Kellenberger, Naomi Norbez, Michael Moose, David Pacheco, Vincent Lucht, John Hancock, Jeffrey P. Long, Oliver Larkosh, Cashnator, Pretoria Mars, Amanda Guth, Rami Vatter, and Abby Knudsen. Again, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, have a good one.